and welcome to the Intel Brief. Today is Monday, 18 August. I'm your host Daniel, and today we're going to talk about European leaders joining Zelensky at the White House for his meeting with Trump. The US offers NATO-like protection for Ukraine in their meeting with Putin, and Bolivia's election is headed for its first presidential runoff. So firstly, on Monday, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky is scheduled to meet with US President Donald Trump at the White House to talk about the peace efforts following his meeting with Russian President Vladimir Putin in Alaska last week. The meeting follows a month-long debate over pursuing a direct peace agreement rather than a ceasefire, a shift agreed upon between Putin and Trump, but contested by Ukraine and European allies who insist a security guarantee must be implemented. Trump and Putin met for nearly 3 hours in Alaska where they discussed land transfers and security guarantees, calling the talks extremely productive, though no ceasefire or peace deal was signed. Putin expects this to set a framework for resolving the conflict. Trump asserted on social media that the most effective way to conclude the devastating conflict is to move straight to a comprehensive peace deal rather than setting for a temporary ceasefire, which often fails. Meanwhile, Zelensky showed openness to holding trilateral meetings involving the US and Russia. The upcoming discussions could shape the future of the Russian-Ukrainian conflict, with European leaders insisting on ironclad security guarantees and cautioning that decisions without Ukraine's or Europe's input may undermine regional stability. So what? It seems more beneficial for Putin to go straight to a peace deal, as then it's more likely that he'll be able to gain territory out of the agreement, where a ceasefire will likely end in protracted political issues for the Russian Federation, likely putting pressure on their economy over the much longer term, something that it really can't deal with at this point. I do think it's possible that Ukraine and Zelensky will agree to handing over territory if there are some very concrete security guarantees provided by the US and Europe. Something like the NATO Article 5 agreement, where if Russia was to attack Ukraine again, then all European powers would be involved in the conflict. I think that's the only real way of ending this conflict, as there's no trust between Ukraine and Russia for obvious reasons, that any agreement wouldn't just be a delaying mechanism to allow Russia to rebuild, rearm, and regroup before they try to conduct another assault on Ukraine. So yeah, I think it is possible that this could lead to a peace agreement, but it still seems pretty tentative, though Trump seems to be pretty keen to get a deal done quickly for obvious reasons. And next, US President Donald Trump could offer NATO-like protection to Ukraine, and Russia is open to the idea, one of his top foreign policy officials said on Sunday ahead of the meeting with Ukraine and European allies to hammer out details of possible security guarantees for Kiev. So what? I mean, I should have just rolled this into the last story, to be honest, because this is all just part of the same thing, right? Yeah, I think this type of protection is one of the only ways that we can kind of move forward in any kind of peace deal, as Ukraine is not going to agree to anything that doesn't end this conflict very clearly and very deliberately. So yeah. And lastly, exit polls on late Sunday showed Bolivia's presidential race will likely go into a second round, with the ruling leftist party headed to its worst electoral defeat in a generation. Dark horse centrist Senator Rodrigo Paz was surprised to be the leader with 32% of the vote, according to projections based on partial results from two polling firms. Giorgio Quigaro A right-wing former president who briefly led the country in 2001 is the second place with 26% of the vote. Business tycoon Samuel Dora Medina was projected to be the first place leader in pre-election polls, but was relegated to third. Meanwhile, the current ruling Movement for Socialism, or MAS party, is on track to lose power after nearly 20 years of dominance. So what? I know very little about Bolivia's politics, to be completely frank, but it is interesting to see two kind of things here that are trending around the globe. Firstly, that pre-election polls are becoming less and less effective at actually predicting election results. And secondly, that most countries are voting out their long-time ruling parties and looking for alternatives due to, key issues around cost of living and the rising prices of everything. This is a global issue that everybody is facing, not just us in the West. So yeah, it's interesting to see the move away from left-leaning socialist party and possibly towards even a right-leaning party, which would spell very different politics within the country. But we have to see what happens. That's kind of an unknown for me. And yeah. Anyway, thank you for listening. That's been your Intel Brief, and I'll see you again tomorrow. See you.